Hi guys, so today I'm doing a sketching session, and when I started this one I actually had very specific goals that I wanted to work on, and one of the things is that I'm starting to realize that the style that I've been drawing my characters in for a long time now isn't quite as rewarding as I want it to be. So one of the things that I'm focusing on is kind of reinvigorating that style and how I draw characters, and specifically I want to focus a little bit more on getting more realistic proportions, especially in the face. I find that my characters tend to look a lot younger than I tend to mean for them to be, so I'm focusing on that and trying to figure out new ways of drawing faces so that there's more variety in them, but also that they tend to have a little bit more reality behind that. And I think one of the main things that I kind of have noticed that I do is that I make eyes too big, which I think is a pretty common thing the artists do, especially in the type of art style that I do. But I think one of the big issues that causes me to always do bigger eyes, because I don't intend to do big eyes. And I think one of the things is that I tend to start the eyes too close to the center, so I have to make them bigger to actually make that closeness look correct. Whereas if I drew them the actual size that I may have intended originally, they would look really small and really close. So it's just kind of noticing those little tendencies that I have that I think will really help me be able to break away from the way that I've always drawn them and to approach the way that I want to be drawing them now. But as I was sketching, I found that, at least as I've rewatched this, that I've gotten farther and farther away from actually focusing on those things that I want to work on getting better at. Whereas when I started out at the very beginning, I was well-intentioned. I was trying to get all of the facial features much more correct and just paying more attention to those details. But as I was sketching, I just kind of went back to default, where I was drawing things with the same formula that I always do in the same way that I did. And I think that that's good to, for me at least, to rewatch and see that I was doing that and I wasn't being as specific as I wanted to, because it'll help me next time I sketch that I can remind myself to pay attention to that, and that I can make that part of my sketching process is to bring myself out of that zone where I'm not really paying attention anymore, and make sure that I am looking back and saying, okay, yeah, I've worked on this, I'm working on this is what I need to work on. And I think that that'll really help me be able to get better faster, because when you're sketching, you're practicing and you're getting better, but when you're drawing everything the same way that you always do, it's a much slower process than when you're focusing and you're saying, this is what I'm going to practice on, and I am going to keep working on this certain element until I get better at it. So I definitely want to be able to get more into that kind of sketching where it's purposeful and it has a point, and I'm focusing and I'm looking up reference for that particular issue that I'm having and things that I want to get better at. So it's helpful to see where I'm going wrong with my sketching so that I can make it better next time that I do sketch. And every time that I draw from now on, I can focus on that, on having a particular goal and sticking to it. So while I do feel like I could get a lot better as far as being more intentional with what I'm drawing and what I'm practicing, I do think that the process that I used for sketching this time was really enjoyable and it really worked for me. And what I did was I did look up reference for every single sketch that I did, and those were references that I found really inspiring for one specific element or another. And how I used it was that I used it more as inspiration and reference for anatomy or certain details that you can't think up, but once you see it in real life or in a photograph, you're able to infuse that into your own artwork. And that was what was really helpful, because I could take what I loved about these things and add it to what I already love drawing, what I know how to draw, and I was able to make something better than I always do, but it still had those elements that were mine, and I was able to be really creative with it, and I really enjoyed that because it gave me a good jumping off point and good inspiration and new visual things to look at, and that just adds to my ability to draw better, more interesting things in the future. And I was still able to have a lot of fun with it, where I wasn't like recreating a photograph or sticking to those specific details. I could make it exactly what I wanted to. So I really like this process where I take a photograph and I just kind of use it as inspiration. I don't follow it specifically, and I just take it for what I want it to be. So yeah, I think that that kind of process of sketching will really help me in the future to be able to move forward and see those details and make my work better, but still have this freedom to make it what I want and to really enjoy doing it. And that is pretty much it for this sketching session. I do want to thank everyone who gave me suggestions on my last video for tutorials that I can do. I really appreciate that. It helps me see what I can do for you guys and how I can direct what I'm doing in my energy. So that was really helpful. And if anyone else has any more suggestions for tutorials, please leave them down in the comments. I really appreciate that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all my future art videos. And until then, I'll see you at my next one.